Welcome to CAV Radio 2.0. Here are your hosts, Chris Perkins, Mark Cummings, and Jeff Giles.
Excellent.
That was awesome, man. Thanks for playing that.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and tell everyone about it?
Oh, that was a track done by a good friend of mine named True One. And it's actually funny. I just heard from his girl the other day because he's in prison again. And I tried sending him some comic books, and I guess they got rejected because they had staples in them. So I got to send him some more.
Oh, shit.
Staples.
Apparently you can break out of prison with staples now.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
So it's a funding issue. You just got to throw some more money at it, and they'll fix that.
Huh. That's
funny. Actually, you can do quite a bit with staples on inside of jail.
I probably could.
Yeah, you can. Oh, shoot.
Would you know this?
Oh man, so funny. Back in my days, we weren't allowed to have any magazines any longer because we used to take the real thick part of a magazine, like a cologne, cutout or something, and we'd rip out the other, like out of a separate, the same magazine that cut out, and we'd glue it together, and you could put anything on the in between the two pages,
right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Like schoolyard drug deals there.
yeah, kind of something like that. I don't suggest doing LSD in jail. I can tell you that too. Speaking of drug-related experiences, don't ever do that. That's a bad idea.
So. Yeah. That's a given.
I feel like it's one of those things that if someone would need to be told that, they wouldn't listen to the advice in the first place.
I think
That's
you're
true.
probably right, my friend. Oh, yeah, you're right, because at 18 years old, somebody probably did tell me that, and I did it anyway, so. But, anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Gonna make
moving
it?
On. Yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah, so the music industry, guys.
Get on to the music industry.
It's a little weird these days. Seeing a lot of weird shit.
I'm interested
Thomas,
to know
what do you...
go ahead.
I just want to speak. What do you think of Mark Dice and what he does about because you briefly mentioned Jay-Z and the Illuminati in the beginning of the show.
Mark Dice, I think, I kind of put him in like the same sort of categories like an Alex Jones. Like I feel like they're necessary. They serve, like they talk to a very specific kind of person that listens to that. And he's to me, he's kind of like the late night talk show host of kind of conspiracy theories. He's the one that'll go out to the beach and give people stupid prompts and make them look like idiots and get chuckles out of it and stuff. And on a separate kind of level too, he kind of goes towards this one camp, which I just happen to disagree with, where everything is the devil. It turns into like the Waterboy dialogue, where Jay-Z is part of the Illuminati and they're serving Satan, and Miley Cyrus is over there because she was possessed by Satan, and always blaming something on kind of like this dark power or something. I always kind of think that absolves individuals of the real responsibility and things that are actually happening. So, but again, I think he's necessary. He definitely he serves his own purpose, and I agree, and I like that he brings, like, he'll go out into the Venice Beach and he'll ask people about Bohemian Grove, and maybe if they feel like an idiot, they'll go and look it up, and now they're interested in it. Then I think that all the better for him, and I'm glad he's out there doing that. Same as Alex Jones, he kind of needs to get to that angry crowd and get them riled up. They might not listen to a wise ass like Mark Dice. So.
For sure. Does Dice still do his on the street stuff with anyone? It seems like all he does.
Yeah,
does
absolutely,
he?
man.
Oh yeah, he's got some new ones.
He actually had one recently. He went out with Luke from We Are Change, and they were kind of tag teaming people. I forgot what the premise was. It was something stupid.
Okay, yeah, no, I think I did catch a clip of that. Yeah, no, you're right. Okay. So it seems like he's just been attacking the music industry lately, so I've seen him been doing that all over the place. So.
It's an easy target, and a lot of a lot of the Illuminati kind of modern day conspiracies, for some reason, they went from being one of the most prestigious kind of organizations in Europe to now that they basically just deal with rappers and pop stars. I always thought that was kind of funny. Like now instead of dealing with kings and like Queen Beatrix, they're dealing with Miley Cyrus and Justin Bieber. Like, it sounds like they actually got the shit end of that stick.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
If we could take every major secret society and organization that's been posed like a threat to the public and just have them just manage teen pop stars exclusively, that would be awesome.
Right.
Right.
What is it, Mark? One of our guests, James, that we have on. What it's
James Wright.
He's an exiled 32-degree Freemason and whistleblower, and he.
You can just to throw out. You can become a 32-degree Freemason in a weekend.
Yeah. Well, I have no idea, but he it's not what they got going on. Isn't they don't even call it the Illuminati. I think that's why they push it a lot, because it's really not whatever these guys think. I mean, because we know that there's dudes out there that are doing weird shit anyway, that really believe in shit like that. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, like there was a while ago, Tony Blair, when him and Bush were like into the headlines everywhere, he had mentioned how he draws this magic circle around him in the morning when he gets up.
Yeah.
And he kind of invokes like this sort of, he described it as like a power or something. So yeah, I mean, people absolutely believe in this shit. The Reagans would have seances in the White House, and they would, arguably decide, policy based on shit that happened in the seance. So I mean, we can point at people, but like this is happening at the very, literally the highest level of government.
Absolutely, beyond government. I got in an argument with a guy the other day that was defending Reagan. He's the best president ever. Oh my God! And I tried to tell him that Reagan was involved in some pretty weird shit, man. No, they're not having it.
I always kind of feel like Reagan was like someone involved him in weird shit. Like he didn't get himself involved in weird shit.
He was in Hollywood, right? He was in Hollywood first.
Yeah, he was an actor essentially.
So I mean, that might tell you something.
Right.
Actually, man, if you look even through back through like the early 1900s, a lot of the intelligence community for our country has all come from people in advertising and acting and sort of like public relations fields. Like the guy that essentially put together the OSS, which was the predecessor to the CIA, William Donovan, he was actually an ad guy. He started as an ad guy. It goes so far back, and I think it's just because everything circles around propaganda. And I mean, and tying it back into the kind of the music, I think that music is sort of, that's the strongest form of propaganda. That's the easiest kind of thing to put out to everyone. I mean, I would guarantee that most of the listeners here, even if they're driving to work or something, and something, horrible song comes on the radio, you don't turn it off every single time. Like sometimes it just, somehow you find yourself listening to a horrible song, and then by the time it's over, you just realize, what the hell did I just listen to? But it's there.
Yep. No, that's happened to me. Absolutely. I catch myself, listening to a couple different songs and be like, what the hell goddamn station is this? What have I been listening to for 45 minutes?
Yeah, exactly, man.
shit. But to me, it's like the music industry is like has its own form of fascism, if you will. Like it has its own form of who's going to make it, who's not. Who's going to be impressionable, who's not.
Who's going to play by the rules? I think that's the number one.
Bingo. That's just it. Who's going to play by the rules? Because, I mean, I'm sorry, Jay-Z hasn't been good in 10 years, probably longer. When he first came out, he was sick. But, and is Jay-Z part of the Illuminati? I don't know. You know what I mean? Does he know that he's directly being... because I definitely think that he's being played.
He gets his rhymes straight from the Anunnaki. That's how he gets that hot rhymes.
He's definitely pushing stuff, obviously, with his clothing and his lyrics now. He's definitely pushing
that was another big thing that came out when he was wearing the Nation of Gods and Earths medallion, and everyone started going, ape shit over it.
Right.
But I mean, it's not Illuminati. That's that was like a black empowerment kind of movement that still continues today. That's sort of like a sort of reflection of the oppression that's been put on them for countless generations essentially, and it was kind of sprung off of this Nation of Islam group. But it really is just kind of this community that kind of treats they sort of treat the Quran the way that the Mormons treat the Bible, where they say that the Garden of Eden was somewhere in the Midwest, and that that Moses had come over and they discovered America, and sort of like the Knights Templar, like this is all sort of different ways of interpreting these religious texts. So then they kind of interpreted the Quran, but they said that Mecca, I believe, was in like New York, and they kind of remapped everything to make more sense to sort of the northeast urban sort of layout, and that became their religious environment. And they turned it into their own religion because they kind of had none. They were stripped of their own, and it was a small community. And for some reason, it really gravitated with a lot of the rappers. But I mean, that's kind of the end of the story. It's definitely not the Illuminati. It's a really small group, and I think they have a lot of influence creatively, but it's not like they're not really running the world.
Right. So why do you think there's a lot of artists, that put the pyramid with the eye symbol? There's a lot of albums that's the cover of it.
Because they get like 100 blog posts the very next night, man. I can't remember the guy's name. I think his name's like Terry Gillum, or I'm probably got that completely wrong, but he's a photographer that's been doing a lot of work for the last like 15 years, and he's particularly known for having models pose with like goat heads and pentagrams drawn in blood and all like real edgy stuff, and then like 9 times out of 10 when they show like a picture of like Miley Cyrus or someone like all decked out, or like Beyonce, it's usually that guy that was behind the photo shoot in some capacity, or like creative director. And he just keeps getting hired, and people get a huge reaction out of it, and they say, well shit, let's hire that guy. He got 50,000 blog posts about Beyonce when we did that. So
marketing.
I'm finding it a lot with more quote underground artists now, though, too. Like more lesser known artists are going kind of into that.
Probably because the stuff sells, so they want to sell their stuff and they put it on there. Yeah,
right.
Marketing.
No,
they
absolutely,
just use it for marketing. Yeah, we talked about this with Richie and Eric Bobo from Sol Invicto and Cypress Hill. We brought this up with them.
Just to be clear, I kind of think this is a good thing, because when I first got really interested in this kind of stuff, I think we talked about this in the last show, I got interested from listening to Kill Army, and that was in like the mid-'90s or something. And without that, I mean, I probably would have got interested, but I just kept hearing that Jordan Maxwell quote at the end of one of those songs over and over and over in the radio, just like we were talking about. And that's kind of what inspired me to even look into kind of corruption and conspiracy and sort of like these fringe topics, And even if someone's just using that all-seeing eye to put on their, custom new era hat to show off the fans or whatever, I still think that's good if someone learns the word Illuminati, even if they're going to be an idiot about it and think that the Illuminati is Jay-Z's, music manager. It's still better than not even knowing what it is, I hope.
Well, I guess, yeah, I could see that. Yeah. I can see that because it does bring it to the limelight, acknowledgement to at least that it does exist.
And, speaking of, those late 90s, and kind of that was specifically in, the hip-hop genre, a lot of people talk about how it used to be kind of conscious or was going, in a conscious direction, and then it completely sort of abandoned that, and then you go into, the late 90s and into now, and just keeps getting dumber and dumber, and, a lot of people would also say that every generation complains about music the exact same way, But there's a talk you can find on YouTube by this producer named Wise Intelligent, and he worked with a lot of different artists, and he had a couple stories where, one of the artists he was working with, they would go into one of the major labels, and they'd have, all these different songs, and one of them was about a police corruption, an actual event that had happened where the police had killed someone, and the label was like, no, you absolutely can't do that because it's potentially putting officers' lives in risk and yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
But then they let them cut the other 20 songs that were about killing black youth and killing other people within the community, and that was completely fine, no problems with that at all. And in this talk, Wise Intelligence says that this isn't a coincidence. This didn't just kind of happen on its own where music just kept getting more and more violent, and it just I guess that's how things are headed these days, That wasn't really how it all worked. And he was saying that the Rodney King riot and the other kind of civil unrest issues were sparking an actual movement to get people to just dumb down the music. It was a concerted effort, and he cites that this happened again in 1967 when they had race riots. And LBJ, he put together a commission. I think it was called the Kerner Commission, and they just wanted to find out why all this unrest. How could they stop the riots from happening? And they basically found out it was because they had these high school dropouts that were more politically conscious than the high school graduates. And the other strange thing is that they had extremely high levels of self-esteem, which was basically kind of unheard of compared to anyone else up to that point when they were doing riots. It was kind of like this weird unrest, but they actually had these high self-esteem kids, and they kind of pointed, well, there's the problem. You can lower the self-esteem. And Wise Intelligent, he kind of goes off on a tangent, but he basically cites that was when the black exploitation movie movement kind of started, and the calling each other nigger was the cool thing to do, and before that it wasn't like a pop culture reference that made you cool and made you part of this, like Kenneth was saying, this culture that turns into your enemy kind of. But I always go back to that because I don't know all that history. He did way more history on this, but I always go back to his speech at this conference where Wise Intelligent is talking about this and being in meetings with actual executives and hearing them say this to huge artists who are signing multi-million deals, and hearing the kind of things that they, could you talk about more guns and drugs here? And that was real. It wasn't just like a rumor or some joke that was on Boondocks. That legitimately happened.
Right. I wanted to back you up a little bit. Don't you think it kind of goes back to what you said about how I'm going to use the CIA officials and all these people within the government kind of started off in either entertainment, advertising, right? Because
they're masters in evoking emotion and understanding how to elicit certain emotions from people, no matter what the circumstance. So go ahead.
I'm sorry. And what they'll do is, no matter how big or small the organization is, if it's a threat, then they'll go in and they'll dismantle it in one way or the other. I mean, just going just back into the 60s, the Black Panthers started out being a fairly decent organization to stop cops abusing black people. Is really what it, in my understanding, what it, and then it got infiltrated and was turned into an organization of black power, if you will. But you know, and you could say that about any sort of uprising or movement or you know, right back to the music industry. It's been infiltrated and manipulated.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I mean, like I said, it's like a main line into the rest of America. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of demographic you're trying to reach. You know, rich people and poor people, and they're all listening to the same music relatively. You know, unless all they're jamming out to is like a Beethoven collection CD or something. But I mean, everyone's hearing it. At least you're watching commercials, you're hearing it. And another really good example is how they'll sell like the baby boomers expensive cars now with like the music that they grew up with in their childhood. And you know, I mean, it's real obvious. And of course, you would, if I was trying to sell something, I'd probably try to do that too.
Right.
I haven't been able to tap in. I haven't thought about tapping into that specific angle yet. But
you're so funny. Like, I don't own a TV. I don't watch a lot of TV or anything like that. But I mean, I can see like a Volkswagen commercial with like Country Joe and the Fish in the background where they're like, you know, I don't know. That's hilarious.
Yeah, man. It brings them back to that part where they were like feeling free. You know, like they're, you know, exploring the world for the first time, psychedelic love revolution and everything, and now they see the clip with the guy with the wind in his hair, and you know, and it's a easy gag, and that's a kind of like an obvious example, but I think it goes so much deeper than that. Again, when you think that advertising men started the CIA, I mean, if you strip everything away, I'm not even trying to like turn that into a hyperbole of any kind. So, I mean, it's kind of insane. So then when you start thinking about that, I mean,
yeah, for sure. What about music frequencies?
Oh, yeah.
I like, that's an interesting one to me, the 440 like versus 432.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with the Pythagoras and what he brought over from like the East about the relationship between the notes. And essentially, I'm going to get some of this wrong, and there's probably a music theory expert out there that's going to call me an idiot at some point. But he basically found out that all music and all numbers kind of fell into these certain categories of relationships. And I believe the Western music that we're normal with is like whole, half, whole, half. You know, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, or whatever. And that's basically our entire musical spectrum for a lot of popular music, at least. And back in his day, they actually would ban anything other than that because they knew that certain tones and certain sort of relationships in music could cause unrest, and some could make people more docile.
Yeah,
and, they could actually
more aggressive.
Control.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's exactly what they found out they could do. So, I mean, for a while, you weren't even allowed. Like, you could get killed, essentially. I mean, Pythagoras was serious. If you even told him that you believed in fractions, you could get your head chopped off. Even though he was, he invented music and it's Pythagorean theorem and smart as hell, he was completely wacko about that kind of stuff. But it was legit. I mean, and there's plenty of research that kind of shows this, although it's kind of like in this fringe YouTube video territory now. But I absolutely think that it's legitimate. I don't think that having all music at 440 versus 432 is necessarily like keeping us all, sheeple or anything like that. But I do think that explains exactly why there's this very cut formula. You can point at any top 40 Billboard song in the last 20 years and say, here's the chords they're going to use, here's the progression. They're going to go from a whole note to a whole note to a half note, and then back down to a whole. Like, that's the formula. And Pythagoras laid this out long time ago, way before Backstreet Boys were able to put it together.
Right.
And the standard was changed in 1953. It was changed to the 440 from 432 worldwide.
There's also a couple on a little tangent. There's similar theories as to why televisions run it at 50 and 60 hertz.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Well, Thomas, were you the one? Did we talk about this on the show before? Frequencies, and maybe not. And I bet Jeff is just screaming at the radio right now. He's still listening.
He's probably passed out.
I don't think that was me, but that's my kind of topic
right.
for sure.
Definitely, that stuff's super interesting to me.
It's not the easiest subject to pick up on, but if you just look into the basics of Pythagoras' teachings, it could possibly give you like a whole new understanding. Like I used to hate math, like 100%. Didn't understand it in school, and it was always like this. I remember like going home basically crying, or like getting into like argument matches with my parents over doing math homework because it was so tough. But once I was able to come across like the guy that wrote the originals for all Western math, then it started making a little bit more sense to me, and it kind of gave me a new understanding on it. I'm still not a genius. I'm still an idiot, but it's definitely, if you're interested, it's definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely. Definitely.
I agree. Yeah, I've been checking it out a little bit more lately. I got something here. I got it bookmarked. It's got a bunch of information about it. I'll send it to you, Mark. You can check it out sometime.
Yeah, send it on over. Yeah. Yeah, well, I've been looking into that for the last, year or so. Well, it's been a lot longer than that, but looking back into it again, frequencies and different things of that nature, and the impact that it can have. Again, like I said, I haven't owned a television in 4 or 5 years. I had one on, and that things, just little things like that make such a big difference.
There was I wish I could remember where this was from. I think it was from an old video on like harp or something, like angels don't play that harp. But this guy made this statement that I always remember, especially when the power goes out. And he said that if you imagine when you've got like a true blackout where like the whole neighborhood is out of power, there's like this calm sort of feeling in the air where it's just like, and then as soon as the power comes back on, it's like you feel like you're in this box again. And it's very hard to explain, but it's like it's, forms this like little cage around you by just having these electrical wires running around like this, anti-Faraday cage sort of deal.
No, sure, absolutely. That makes sense. I mean, there's been studies of people that have grown up around, power lines or, whatnot, And I can certainly see that, especially in like populated areas, like you say, if the power goes out, everything's down, and there's this tranquility, there's this silence about it. And then once everything starts, like you said, starts back up, then everything's going again. Everything's just being disturbed, because that's what it's doing.
I think a lot of, going back to like specifically in frequencies, and I'm not smart enough to say any of this with authority, so don't write any of this down. I kind of just freeball it as I go with it. But a lot of it has to do with how much your brain wants to like correct a sound, or like how much it's anticipating what the next sound you're going to play is, and like the difference in the frequency. So your brain is going to want that C to turn into an E or something like that. And when it doesn't, that's what causes you kind of unrest. And if you listen to a lot of music where you're basically always being hit with these notes that you're not expecting, it kind of puts you in a little bit of a disarray, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Versus if every single time, that note is exactly what you thought it was going to be. It's like, watching a typical Hollywood movie and you feel so smart because you figured out the end before they told you, and right. I'm such a smart guy for doing that. It's kind of like that, and I think that's what the whole docile thing goes with, where you just feel content because you feel like you've always got the answer, and this is just a small little thing that helps you constantly feel like that.
There's so many wonderful artists out there that have been around for years, hundreds of years, that do great stuff, but Frank Zappa was always one for me that was able to...
yeah, man. Big
you know what I mean? Just like totally change things around. Like you'd be
Hell
listening and be like,
yeah.
I know what's going on, and then bang, he'd be like, fuck you, I'm changing everything. And it's like, whoa, what did he just do?
And he was extremely political, too, which I really love.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. And I don't exactly agree with a lot of his political stuff, but he was just brilliant, though, on so many different levels. Just absolutely brilliant. A really smart guy. Musical genius. His music is just, that's genius to me.
I think he was a really huge influence too, man. He was an outside thinker. He spoke out, and he used his music as the way to do that. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
And he used his fame for that. Like, he would get up in front of, I think he got up in front of Congress, and they were trying to pass some kind of like decency laws in music.
Correct.
And I wasn't even alive at this time, but I've seen a lot of the videos over and over. And I mean, he's up there like a freedom fighter, and he's basically, you know, calling these senators idiots right to their faces.
Yep.
You know,
I remember the exact
song about, you know, having an underage girl in the back seat and blah blah. And he's like, well, have you ever, you know, heard a song about such and such? Well, does that mean that you would fuck your mother, sir? And like, you know, it's uncomfortable because he didn't have the audience laughing behind him, but he was still doing it. I mean, he is a hero, an American hero.
I don't know if it was Black Sabbath or who the band was, but there was a band that they're like, somebody's child had taken their life listening to this, or like it was a pack suicide or something, and then, but Frank Zappa, John Denver, there was like I wasn't alive then either, but again, seeing the, you know, the clips over and over, and
wasn't that Judas Priest?
It was Judas Priest. That's what it was. It was Judas Priest. Yes. Yep. And but yeah, all these like artists got together in front of Congress, and like, you know, like I said, John Denver was there. I mean, just people that you wouldn't think of, you know, and you know, they obviously squashed that, but yeah, that was a big thing, you know, and that's kind of something that we didn't touch. I don't know that we've ever talked about that as far as like. What about that type of music? Judas Priest, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath,
like all those like the bat mask in it, the bat mask in and all that shit.
That's devil music.
It's creepy.
It can be creepy. And like, I don't mean to get all like weird like that shit, but even like Obama's what was his presidential thing where you play it backwards and it says "Thank you, Satan, thank you, Satan," and it like really does like.
I haven't heard of that.
You haven't heard it?
No, I haven't heard that one either.
Okay, give me just 1 second and I'll think of it. It's Yes We Can. Remember when he started this campaign in 2008, and it was Yes We Can, Yes We Can.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, yes we can fucking, you know, implement communism. Yes we can, you know. But if you like take that one clip, somebody found that if you take those one words, yes we can, and play them backwards, it says like "Thank you, Satan" or something like that. It's very, very clear. You can find it all over YouTube. People will like.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not gonna trust what they have on YouTube, but I can just get the clip and I got some software.
Right.
I can just play it backwards and try it myself.
Exactly.
I'd rather do
it.
that. Yeah. I'm gonna have to do that.
Yeah, crazy. But anyway, so like back to the music part of things, not to get off track here too much, but
well, you're on track. You're on track.
Yeah, that's actually a popular technique that, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of artists have had rumors about that, and they've tried to like start rumors about that.
The Beatles.
The Beatles.
The Beatles.
Paul
they were supposedly doing it. Zeppelin was always the one that if you played Stairway to Heaven backwards, your head would explode or something.
What's his face bought Aleister Crowley's house.
Yes, right.
Yeah. And that's where.
I don't think he had a very nice house.
I've seen pictures of it. It's just a creepy house.
It was just like a shack in the middle of nowhere on the top of some hill, I think.
Well, no, there was a house. It was a nice house, but it was just
I'm thinking of his abbey or something then.
And yeah, but he bought it, and also what was it? That's where John Bonham died.
Mhm.
Which was kind of weird too, because that was at the point where which one was it? Was it Jimmy Page or was it Robert Plant?
I believe. Don't quote me. I believe it was Plant, but both of them I believe were dabbled into that stuff and Crowley stuff. For sure.
I don't know. Just a lot of weird. There was definitely a lot of weird stuff. You can definitely question it. I'm sure there's some. I'm sure they were getting into some weird shit, especially if you're fucked up on drugs all the time.
Right.
He was a huge advocate of that for sure.
Certainly, and the influences of Aleister Crowley. I mean, come on. I mean, you know what I mean.
The guy was seriously a huge dick. He would lead people on expeditions into the mountains, then get halfway up and be like, "Wow, this shit is crazy. I'm leaving," and wouldn't bring them back with him, and lots of people died because of this. I mean, it's not funny, but it's crazy how much shit you could get away with back then.
Right. Oh no, for sure. You're a weird dude.
A little bit.
You said he was a dick, yeah. Yeah. Great stuff.
So yeah, I was seeing what Jeff was doing, checking to see if he's still alive or passed out with his flea killer fumes.
How's he doing?
He hasn't said anything, so I don't know.
Oh, maybe he's passed out. I had a message too that you brought up James Wright and what Illuminati, Order of the Silver Star. Isn't that what James said?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Something like that.
We had a listener message me and said that he thinks that's what it was.
The Order of the Silver Star.
Yep. That's what the Illuminati is. They call themselves now, or what they really
are.
That's what
they've turned into now. I've heard a lot of. What was another one? Was Mariah, the Whispering Wind, or a lot of it gets very biblical. They're all different little passages from the Bible, essentially.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Mariah Conquering Wind, I think that was the last time someone I read something that they said that was the new group that had formed.
Okay.
But to be honest, man, my own opinion, I think that what they really did is they just kind of established a framework, and they were kind of a short-lived group, and they showed how it was done. Here's how you run a secret society, and here's how you structure it, and here's how you qualify people into the different levels, and here's how you keep complete control over them. And then when they sort of disbanded, they just kind of, it was like a big company that had dissolved, and all the top, guys went to different firms. That's essentially what happened. That's my opinion.
Yeah, they all have the blueprint or whatever. Yep.
Puts a different angle on the pyramid, if you ask me. Maybe not necessarily as a structure pyramid of the top down necessarily, as more of just a structure of the top down. Maybe not necessarily of necessary people from your original 13 people down the pyramid. More of just the structure.
Well, yeah, if you think about it,
at the top right.
It's just layers of compartments. It's the whole pyramid scheme and the whole secret society. They kind of perfected compartmentalism. Back to the Masons believe in the Hiram Abiff legend, and that he was this master Mason, and that the three ruffians.
For sure.
First figured out, hey, if I just sit at the top here and I get these two guys and make sure that they keep the three below them in line, and those guys keep the four below them in line, and it just kind of, it became the formula.
Right. And you have to bear with me. You broke up a little bit there, Thomas, so I missed a little bit of that.
Okay, it wasn't just me. I was wondering. I didn't know if it was like my end over here was messing up, and
I'm on my phone.
No, I actually thought we lost you for a second.
Okay, well I did too, but I was like, oh, probably it's my end again. Okay, it wasn't me this time. Awesome.
I'm just saying they just figure out formulas and they just keep refining them over and over. It's like a scientific process, and the world population is essentially what's being experimented on.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. What do you think, Mark? You ready to wrap up? It's about that time, isn't it?
Yeah. What a great show.
11:30. Yeah. Awesome show tonight.
Thanks for having me back, man. I hope I can come back again when I got some new titles up.
Oh, for sure, man. Just let me know, and we'll get you back on.
You got it.
And go ahead and plug all your stuff again if you want.
At paranoidamerican.com, I'll be relaunching again at the end of this month with like 4 free-to-read comics. If you go there right now, you can read the first issue of Time Samplers, and you can read 2 issues of Paranoid American History. They're both going to be ongoing, so there's going to be plenty more coming for the next year at least. So check all that out, and
oh,
he's cutting out again.
Yeah, cutting out. We lost him altogether. Altogether.
Might have lost him this time.
No, I'm here.
You there?
Oh.
Yeah, he's back.
All
he's
right.
back.
Yeah, no, definitely wrapping this up because we're losing you.
All right, man. Well, if you can still hear us, thanks for coming on.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think he hung up. Probably, or just lost him.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break.
Did he get to get that entire plug-in?
No, not the entire thing, I don't believe, but you got out Time Samplers and
timesamplers.com, paranoidamerican.com. Just go there, check it out.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, break time. Come back. Do our thing.
You got it.
All right, I got something for break time. You guys will enjoy this.
All right.
So when we asked the president, will you kill Americans on American soil with your drone strikes, which is part of the military, it should be an easy answer. In fact, I hope someone's calling him now and asking him for an answer. It saved me a lot of time and breath, and my throat's already dry, and I just got started. But if they would ask him for an answer, can the military operate? Well, no.
President Obama, it's Conrad. There must be some kind of mistake, Mr. President. Your drone strikes don't abide by my Fifth Amendment. No, I'm on a landline. What do you mean breaking up? Oh, okay, I guess. He's not gonna call back, is he?
Looks like that pesky Constitution is trying to interfere with our plans again. What should we do?
Oh my, what a workout! That really gets my blood flowing. was that? That's a dildo! What in the world is going on? Oh my God! Rand Paul was right! He didn't mention dildos, though.
This is a Channel 10 breaking news report. And now, Chad McShear.
Hello, I'm Chad McShear. We have a developing story out of the East County to report. We go live to Dave Fallon in Chopper 10. Dave, are you there?
Yes, we've been following the suspect for some time now, and
Oh my. What is going on down there, Dave?
Yes, Chad, authorities are telling us this man is in fact a wanted terrorist. No idea why he's in this neighborhood, but I suppose he's doing terrorist-like things.
Well, yes, he does seem to have a turban there, Dave.
He does seem to be wearing the traditional terrorist garb, Chad.
Well, you can see here with our Channel 10 See It, he's clearly wearing a turban.
That motherfucker! Ron Paul! How did you know I was here?
I was on my morning jog when I sensed our Constitution was in trouble.
Oh, well, what do we do now?
Here, have an RPG.
Okay, Dave, now what are we looking at here?
Well, Chad, the White House is telling me these are terrorists.
Okay, because from here in the studio, it looks like Ron Paul and the United States Constitution wearing towels as turbans and holding RPGs. Do you see that?
Well, it does look that way, Chad, but I have no reason to doubt the White House at this time.
Do you see the drone?
Not yet, Conrad. I think you might have to lure it out.
I don't like the sound of this. Now, you're sure you'll see the drone before I get raped?
Don't worry, Conrad. This will work.
Well, I sure do hope so, Ron Paul, 'cause my butthole's counting on you.
I see the bastard. You can get down now, Conrad.
Oh, cool. I'll get down.
Madam Speaker, I have a few questions for my colleagues. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous? What if propping up repressive regimes in the Middle East endangers both the United States and Israel? What if occupying countries like Iraq and Afghanistan and bombing Pakistan is directly related to the hatred directed toward us? What if someday it dawns on us that losing over 5,000 American military personnel in the Middle East since 9/11 is not a fair trade-off with a loss of nearly 3,000 American citizens, no matter how many Iraqi, Pakistani, and Afghan people are killed or displaced? What if we finally decide that torture, even if called enhanced interrogation technique, is self-destructive and produces no useful information, and that contracting it out to a third world nation is just as evil? What if it is finally realized that war and military spending is always destructive to the economy? What if all wartime spending is paid for through the deceitful and evil process of inflating and borrowing? What if we finally see that wartime conditions always undermine personal liberty? What if conservatives who preach small government wake up and realize that our interventionist foreign policy provides the greatest incentive to expand the government? What if conservatives understood once again that their only logical position is military intervention and managing an empire throughout the world? What if the American people woke up and understood that the official reasons for going to war are almost always based on lies and promoted by war propaganda in order to serve special interests? What if we as a nation came to realize that the quest for empire eventually destroys all great nations? What if Obama has no intention of leaving Iraq? What if a military draft is being planned for the wars that will spread if our foreign policy is not changed? What if the American people learn the truth, that our foreign policy has nothing to do with national security, that it never changes from one administration to the next? What if war and preparation for war is a racket serving the special interests? What if President Obama is completely wrong about Afghanistan and turns out worse than Iraq and Vietnam put together? What if Christianity actually teaches peace and not preventive wars of aggression? What if diplomacy is found to be superior to bombs and bribes in protecting America? What happens if my concerns are completely unfounded? Nothing. But what happens if my concerns are justified and ignored? Nothing good.
You're listening to CAB Radio 2.0.
And we're back.
All right. Just sitting here thinking, what an awesome guest he is.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of our better shows, too.
Yeah, it was really good.
Talked about
a really good conversation.
Yeah, definitely. We could even got more in depth in it. I like this subject though about the psychedelic medicines and treatments and everything. So I think it's really important. Won't mind doing another show on it and getting another guest on. I have some ideas.
All right. Well, don't give them all away, but.
No.
No, good though. No, I think you're right though. I think it's important to push it out there.
Yep, agreed.
Just stop being so friggin' taboo.
Try some DMT. Ayahuasca, peyote, what is it? Ibogaine, MDMA.
Listen to it. Listen to you. Do drugs, kids.
Yeah. Well, they're psychedelics.
I know.
I mean, I don't think we don't got any underage listeners to this. If they are, you shouldn't be because it's rated R.
Oh, that's funny.
But no, I mean, and they're not.
No,
they're not addictive.
Right.
So there's a lot of benefits. Help or cure anxiety, depression, addiction, like I said, PTSD.
Yep.
A lot of other things.
That's right.
Good for vets. Like I was saying before, is an 83% cure rate compared to psychotherapy, which is like 25%, 1 in 4. So
yeah,
22 veterans a day commit suicide. So I mean, you think it would be worthy, if they actually cared. I know of some vets that have PTSD that say the MDMA absolutely has helped it. So, Adam Kokesh, and I know that he talks about it.
Yeah, that's right.
Come on. Caffeine in your coffee is more toxic than psilocybin mushrooms. So
that is true.
That's a fact.
Very true. Yep. Yep.
So.
And see, I don't know anybody that's ever permanently done damage because of psilocybin mushrooms. Not personally.
No, well, it slows. Yeah, I mean it slows down the activity in the areas in your brain that are overactive. That's what it does. Well, definitely psilocybin. I'm sure that's all pretty much all the same. They do a lot, like I said, it depends on you too.
Oh, absolutely. That's a fact too. But yeah, definitely we'll have to do another show for sure.
Yep, I'm down. Well, I guess Jeff isn't calling back in, or I don't know. It seems he hung up, and I don't know if he's actually. Well, he hung up and called back in. I have no idea. We'll check. Jeff, you with us? He must have got disconnected and then reconnected. Because it was the timer was like way up, and now it showed like on hold for like 4 minutes, which means he was disconnected and reconnected.
Right.
Because he stayed connected on here. He was probably listening to it that way.
Sure.
But
yeah.
Go to bed, Jeff.
Hey. We made it without you, buddy. Thanks.
We absolutely did.
Oh.
All right, I suppose.
All right.
Can wrap up.
We'll check up on my wife here.
Yeah. Make sure she's all right.
That's right.
I'll plug the YouTube again. YouTube.com/CAVRadio2X0, or you can just type in CAV Radio on YouTube. We're on Facebook, Twitter. We're there. Find us, like our page, follow our Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yes, that big one. Go to the YouTube. You've been working diligently on getting that.
Yeah.
Build.
And I'll have a bunch more tomorrow. I'm going to cut up the Conrad clips that we have. To get them up there.
Yes.
Got him back on Thursday, and we'll have somebody else on also. Said we'll go a little longer with Conrad this time. So, I suppose. Anything you need to say before you head out?
I guess not. I guess I'm good. Again, good show. So we'll be talking again Thursday.
Everybody have a good night. Later.
All right. Good night, all.